Okay, in these three short videos, I'm going to go over again how to figure out what's inside ions, atoms, and isotopes. So just to recap, um, basically atoms are the smallest building blocks of matter, and there's about 92 different naturally occurring elements, which is what atoms are. So there's different elements or different types of atom. Okay, right, but there's actually three different variations on atoms which we're going to look at, which are ions, atoms, and isotopes. So I'll do three videos looking at each one. First one, this is the first one we covered, is atoms. So let's have a little recap on what atoms are all about. Right, so atoms, what are they made of? Right, there's three particles, isn't there? There's three particles inside atoms. There's protons, neutrons, and electrons. Okay, there they are there. Right, and if you remember, it's the protons which are in the nucleus. Okay, there's the protons in the nucleus. There is the neutrons in the nucleus, and there is the electrons which orbit the outside. Okay, so basically, the nucleus is the bit in the middle, and that's the protons and the neutrons. Now, first important fact we need to know is protons, neutrons, and electrons, right, is the charge, because atoms, okay, or understanding what's inside atoms is all about charge, right? The charge on a proton, if you remember, is +1. They're positive, but they have a charge of +1. The electrons are negative, so they have a charge of -1. Now, neutrons are neutral. That's why they're called neutrons. So they have a charge of 0. Okay, so that's the most important fact, really, when figuring out what's inside atoms. Okay, there's a periodic table. That's all the naturally occurring elements. Now, the numbers here, these numbers tell us what's inside, okay, each atom of each element, and it tells us how many of each. Right, the number we're going to look at first is this one. There's always two numbers. The smaller of the two numbers is called the atomic number. Now, if you remember, that tells us the number of protons. Okay, so let's have a quick recap on lithium. So the number of protons in lithium is 3. Okay, so protons is 3. Now, this number here, this is number of protons plus neutrons. So the number of neutrons in a lithium atom must be 4. Okay, now, one of the most important facts about atoms, all atoms are electrically neutral. That means they have an overall charge of 0. So atoms have to have the same number of electrons as protons. So this lithium atom will have 3 electrons, okay? Because there must be 3 lots of +1 and 3 lots of -1. So +3 and -3 makes 0. So the overall charge on this lithium atom is 0. Okay, but just to recap the two numbers here, this is the atomic number, the number of protons, and this is the mass number, which is the number of protons plus neutrons. Okay, now let's just quickly look at another example. We've got carbon. All right, no prize for guessing. Capital C is carbon. Right, what is in a carbon atom? Okay, so let's do the thing with number of protons equals number of neutrons equals number of electrons equals. Right, carbon. Okay, 6. That's the smaller of the two numbers. That's the atomic number. So that tells us the number of protons. So 6 protons. Right. Mass number 12. So there's 12 protons and neutrons. So there must be 6 neutrons. Okay. Now, because it is a atom, it's electrically neutral. Okay, which means that the overall charge on it must be 0. So it must have 6 negative electrons, because each proton has a charge of +1, each electron has a charge of -1. So we've got +6 charge in the nucleus and -6 charge in the electrons on the outside. So overall, the charge on that fella is 0. Okay. One last example here. Right, what is this an atom of? Right, well, how do we figure out what element we're looking at if we've got an atom? Well, it's all about, okay, what element each atom is determined by one thing, and that is the number of protons in the nucleus. So, how many protons have we got in the nucleus? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 6 protons in the nucleus. So number of protons equals 6. How many neutrons have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we've got 6. All right. So how many electrons have we got? We've got 6. Right, mass number and atomic number. Now the atomic number is the number of protons, so that's 6. The mass number is protons plus neutrons, so that's 12. So looking at our periodic table, if it's got an atomic number of 6, it must be carbon. So there we have another picture of a carbon atom. Okay, so that's working out what's inside a carbon atom from just the mass number and the atomic number, and that's what's figuring out what's inside an atom, or what element it is, from looking at the atom. Okay, so that is a diagram of a carbon atom. Right, just to finish off, I'll do one from here. Okay, let's look at 23Na. Right, what's Na? If you look at your periodic table, Na is sodium. Okay, right, the 23, now that is the bigger of the two numbers. If you look at Na on your periodic table, it will have the smaller of the two numbers being 11. Okay, so the atomic number of sodium is 11. Okay, if it's a sodium atom, it must have 11 as its atomic number. So that is the number of protons. So it's got 11 protons. It's got 23 protons plus neutrons, so it must have 12 neutrons. And because it is electrically neutral, it must have the same number of electrons as protons. So it's got 11 electrons. So there you have it. That's how you figure out what's inside an atom. Thank you.